Hey fam, glad you all are here. We're H&D Abroad. It's that day, y'all. I'm Herman. She's D. We're H&D Abroad. It's good to see you. We are we are on time, even though we're not on time, and we're just glad to be here. You glad to be here?
I am.
It's always good to
As
be
you
here
all
with
can
you.
see, we're back home. We had to come home unexpectedly, but wanted to make sure that this topic was covered. I am excited that the money conversation continues. Um, I wasn't when we started in December. We kind of had a core set of topics, and as more questions popped up in the chat, we said, why don't we continue? So thank you for sticking with us. If you are new to the 2024 money goals conversation, I will try to add a link. I think this is the right
This side,
hand.
this side, this side.
So that you can get that full playlist. But we've had some power packed conversations, and Tasha just has been sharing information on her channel. And I said, we've got to have you come on because the retirement strategy conversation, there are a lot of questions, especially when you're considering moving abroad. When you're in your 40s and 50s, it gets serious. I mean, like rubber meets the road is going to be happening really quickly. Um, I am waiting to see. I figure she's not coming today. Sabangale is not. She may be in the chat today. We're going to shout her out because today is the first day after her retirement. So we are celebrating someone that is a part of our community, that she's been having these conversations. She's been talking and sharing with us about how she made her plan and felt confident in her plan. And we want the folks in our community to be confident about the plan that they should be putting in place for, hey, where is that money going to come from if and when I decide to stop working? And asking those 5 critical questions to make sure you are looking and understanding all of the facets, maybe not all of them, a lot of the facets, the major buckets that you should be paying attention to in the retirement strategy conversation. So
if you are new to our channel, we are H&D Abroad. Um, Here on H&D Abroad, we strive to help Black couples in particular see moving abroad as a plan A. We do that by sharing our journey and our experience as we strive to find where we're going to land in this wild world. We are midlife professionals.
Yep.
So we're not down the road, we're not retirement age, but we decided we wanted to see the world now. So we are trying to decide where we're going, and we're narrowing it down, and we do that through this community that we have built on our channel and through our interaction with you. And we hope that if you are new to our channel, that you will like this video. So for all 500 of you now, yes, I'm being funny, so that's my son's joke. All of you now in the chat, hit like because you're already here. Please subscribe to our channel and
hit the notification bell.
Notification bell. Make it sound good. Ring the bells. Rock the bells. Yes, I'm a 1980s, 1990. So rock the bell. And because we want to build this community of sharing in this chat right now, our content creators who are part of our community. Just start looking folk up. You can see who they are, and go ahead and subscribe to their channels as well, because we are a joint community. Let's do some quick shout outs. We see people are here. Scroll back up. So Aileen Brown was here early. Good to see you, Aileen.
Yeah.
Tanya, hey, tell your husband I'll be on again back on this Monday. We're doing a retirement talk with 2 other content creator stations. I see servant teacher Nikki. Oh, Sugar and Money. Hey, nice to meet you. Welcome in. Servant teacher Nikki, good to see you. My friend Sandra. up here in the middle of the night. We are so glad you came in. You know, good to see us.
Absolutely.
Hey, Lori Butler, good to see you.
We have a tight time, and I want to give the most amount of time to you all. So please,
make sure I shout out since David is here. David,
yes.
So servant teacher Nikki and Dave, we're glad that you all are here. It's always good to see one of the brothers here support me, so I'm not here alone in this lonely male world. No, just kidding. Tanya Phillips. Hey, Greta, good to see you. So shout outs. We are going to bring Tasha on. I'm going to unmute her so she can jump right into the talk. No, don't do that. Right there. There we go.
Yeah. So Tasha, Tasha Journeys has been a powerful education for me. That's Tasha's channel. But the community that she's creating, yes, she's got a lot of great content about money, but she's also talking about travel and other things. So I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and let folk know what you bring, a level of expertise. You're not just saying, hey, this is what I've done, but I'm coming as a professional into this space as well.
Well, thank you. First, thank you guys for having me and supporting me on my channel. I see y'all in my live and engaging. So I'm like, who is H&D Bro? Let me go to that channel. And I'm like, oh my God. So I love y'all content and the journey y'all are on too. And shout out to everybody in the chat who is looking to retire early, have their YouTube channel, share travel information. I see a lot of travelers coming up in the chat. But I'm Tasha Danielle. I'm a CPA. I'm from Metro Detroit, and I just recently ended my 13-month sabbatical, so I'm back to reality right now, currently in Metro Detroit. And I have spent the last 15 years in accounting. So I started my career in a Big Four firm, and then I was industry, and then through my church, I started serving and providing personal financial coaching. And I got more involved with personal finance within my CPA license several years ago. So I do that. I do coaching from that perspective, not specializing in tax. I get that a lot. I am familiar with the tax code and stuff, so I can answer those questions. And I want to put this disclaimer out that everything I talk about is for educational purposes. So I am not your licensed CPA. And we're just going to be talking, I'm going to be sharing just general information, right? So if you have specific questions that you want to ask, put them in the chat. But a lot of times it's going to be, it depends. It depends because you got to see the whole full financial picture. I came back to Metro Detroit after 13 months pursuing my passion, which I'm wearing right now, Financial Garden. So I actually go into the classroom with the curriculum I created and teach kindergartners through 12th grade how to win with money. So that's just a little bit about me.
All of these details are in the description on how to work with Tasha. The children's book, how to access that as well. So I'm so proud to have watched you when you were bopping Africa and other places.
So yeah, 19 countries total. I say 18 because I came back for like a couple of weeks and then I went to my 19th country in 5 continents. So
wow.
Yeah.
So when I say she gets it, this community should understand that the idea of moving abroad and considering retirement. When I talk to Fidelity, they're like, that's really interesting. Like they don't even really have a concept of what it is and why we're asking the questions or why we're putting together that that checklist of are you ready? Different because of how we're leveraging that process. So I think Tasha comes with a unique set of professional skills, but also from a personal lifestyle. She understands the lifestyle. So when I put together the ask, it was because she's done several, let's see. So if you want to know why I'm in the no spin challenge for January, thank Tasha. Thank Tasha for that. Every week she checks in with us and says, how's it going? And I'm like, girl, I done had to take another deep breath. She's offering something I really want to do. And so as we're learning about ourselves, she's also teaching in this 401k space. We talked about IRA. So I'm encouraging you to go and subscribe. And because Sunday nights, I don't want to say the time, Sunday nights,
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but Detroit Lions is throwing me off because I haven't been. Listen, I'm from Detroit, so I got to go with the Lions. So I'm supposed to go live at 7 tomorrow. I'm moving it, but typically it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, you all know I was born. I was raised in Florida, but I was born in Detroit, and my heart loved the Lions at heart. So even if we're on the road tomorrow, I'm gonna pay somebody. We're gonna be watching the Lions do their thing. Go.
Yes. So, so the first area that I know that we said that we wanted to talk through that is if you are thinking about your retirement plan, and for those of us who are in our 40s and 50s, may also have to consider our parents. That we may be financially responsible for. How do you see us building this conversation? Because we have to have that both views in mind.
Yes, and I forgot to mention this too before I answer that question. So in my background, I have a financial audit background. So I dealt with auditing defined pension plans, 401ks, all the stuff that you're investing in behind the scenes with Fidelity and stuff. I audited those companies' funds. So I have the opposite end of the spectrum of understanding how it really works in the funds. But to answer that question, first and foremost, I think people don't consider their parents. I met a lot of people that were my age, so I'm 37, and they're like, okay, I can be a digital nomad and all that stuff. But it's like, if you have a good relationship with your parents, they're still alive, you are going to have to consider them in your retirement plan. A lot of Black and brown folks, because even if they do have a pension, it's not going to be worth nothing. They may not have enough in the 401k. So I always say start with Social Security. At my age, and we talked about this a little bit, like, it's not going to really be there for real when it's all said and done, when we retire. So what I mean is sitting down for yourself to get familiar with it. Go to the Social Security website. I think it's ssa.gov, I believe, but it has to have a .gov at the end of it to log in and see what your potential benefits are. I do that even at my age, even though I'm not fully banking on that being available, because this country is in so much debt and it probably be empty, and they keep changing the age. So I want to take a minute to talk about the age requirements to draw on Social Security. So when you log in to Social Security, the website, you'll see what you'll get if you take your Social Security at 62, 66, 67, and if you wait to 70. So those are numbers you should be familiar with from a perspective. If you're my age, for your parents, you can't log into their account. You need to log into your own, but you can look and see what you would get just to familiarize yourself with what the site looks like. But when it comes to your parents, saying from my perspective, I want to see how much my mom is getting per month. And we've had this open dialogue for a few years. So I'm well aware that some people, parents, is like, this is grown folks' business. I don't care how grown you are. You're not about to look at my account or see what I have. So you have to start the slow conversation of, when are you thinking about retiring with your parents? Okay, what does that look like? If they own a home, are they thinking about selling it? Like you need to start asking these questions, especially for you, whether you're going abroad or not, because this is going to impact you if you need to contribute financially. And a lot of millennials do need to help their parents when it comes to retirement. So I'm just going to pause right there.
There's cultural things. This is touching a tender spot for me. Because I seeing my mom yesterday, I'm saying, hey, what about, and she's like, no, I'm not really ready to do that. Well, the decisions around mobility, you not only do you want to be asking those questions, I think, I mean, even looking at your situation, having documentation that gives you permission when they're not able to make those choices for themselves, that I feel like it, even if they're not ready to make a decision, at least having that documentation where when they can no longer do that for themselves, that you have the authority, or your sibling or someone that they trust, so that things can continue to move forward and you're not stymied. So
this is a valid question that Sandra's asking. In our community, our culture, we created this fear of future talk, of future planning, and there is, and yes, as Sugar and Money says, it's a hard conversation, but we have to have it. When you are talking to my father just turned 77 this week. My mother passed last March.
I'm sorry to hear that. I said, I'm sorry to hear that. Condolences.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And my father has had their affairs in order and continuously has updated them for well over 30 years. Because when I was in high school, I think first when I was 16, so you're talking 89, 90, he sat down with me and said, hey, this is what the paperwork looks like. This is where I keep it. This is what's going on. And every few years, he's called me to the house and said, come sit down. I need you to see this, what we've changed, what we've moved. But that is, as I'm learning from my peers, that is highly unusual. That is, and there are so many families showing up at the celebration, and there are no answers about what happened. And there are many partners who are left without answers. We sat here and had a pretty candid conversation last night. And
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's not going to be one conversation. It's not going to be a one and done. So I would say, your parents better than I would coming from across the screen. Like, I've always talked about money because with my mom, even though my mom, she is not like as open as talking about it, but her mother, I get all my money wisdom from my grandmother. And with my grandmother, we would have these conversations. I was on her stuff, but she still was tight-lipped about stuff. And so with me being her legal guardian, like so many years ago, almost 10 years ago, I had like this exposure, not from just talking about it from having a license or whatever, but just from like, oh, it's real talk when you have to get in there and figure out what your loved one has, right? So it's not going to be one and done, and it will be a lot of resistance from most people, because it's like, for most parents, because it's like, you a kid. I don't need your help. And it also can stem from a place of embarrassment because there's not a lot of money there and they don't want to ask you for help. So you have to keep that in mind. So for me, with my mom, it was a few years ago having that conversation. Because at first she was just like, I don't know why, I'm not, that's so long, that's 20 years from now, we're retired, I'm not trying to talk about that now. And I'm like, okay, but I have to figure this into my financial plan because I know there's going to be a gap. And who knew that 2020 would set this chain reaction, and we have all this inflation now, so it's even worse than when I was having this conversation years ago with my mom. And I told her, I'm like, listen, I don't know what your pension looks like, what your 401k looks like, because she didn't want to really go there with me. But I'm like, reality, can you live the life that you live now when you retire? Can you afford rent? Are you going to have a car paid for? You got to start thinking about this, because when you retire, that's it. You know what I mean? If you don't, you can go get another job somewhere else, but it's like, do you want to work for the rest of your life? And I started sharing with her YouTube videos of people retiring in Mexico, just to open my mom's mind up to the possibility of relocating. My mom was a Marine, so the idea of world travel was always appealed to her. But I'm like, it's Black people that's doing this. It's not just like you're gonna go be a snowbird and it's not gonna be anyone that looks like you, but this is starting to be a movement. And this was like, 8-9 years ago when I really mentioned it, and then like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, as far as like sending the videos of like, check this out. So now my mom's here. She's like, okay, I could spend the time in Mexico, Thailand, or whatever. But that conversation took a while to get there, is my point.
Yep. Was there any other, let's see, so I'm flashing some of these forward. Areas of this conversation that I see that we're having is, are you a signatory on their bank accounts? That's super touchy. But they can have money coming in, but if nobody can access it, then nobody can access it. So, I mean, let's see, having a will, having an advance directive, you need to be able to do some of these things and make decisions. But like Sam is saying, government benefits are a bonus. And so I know that the reason why we're probably pushing forward is because to have someone come in our home or to be able to afford that care for them is much less expensive outside of the US. And so it's helping us to make some of the choices. But yeah, if I'm going to have to support several people on my retirement income, we're going to have to live somewhere.
That's what Berta is saying here too. You got to make some hard decisions, and sometimes you got to push in, even though they're your parents or your loved ones, your grandparents even, and you got to say, hey, we're going to make sure that we do this together, and sharing the information as at this point in your life when you're not a senior citizen. Having a conversation that was vital for me with my father. I didn't understand at 16. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Okay, cool. I hear you. Y'all are talking down the road, and to realize I can see that conversation as clear as it is right now. And 16 was a long time ago,
But I will say, and I saw the comment from Black Women Build Wealth. I agree. For me, Social Security is not in my retirement planning like at all. I'm not depending on it, but it's for millennials, like in your 30s. When you're having a conversation with your parents, I guarantee they're going to mention Social Security, and do not be surprised that they have no clue how much they're getting. And I'm saying that from perspective of, I started working with usually around 58 to 62 years old. A lot of people start coming to me talking about retirement. What should I do? In Detroit, we have the automaker. So every few years there's a buyout. Should I take this buyout early? There's buyouts going on right now. Should I take this? Then I'm gonna take my Social Security at 62. But they didn't know how much they were getting. And a lot of people do not understand how Social Security retirement, like the benefits work. People get different amounts. And so a lot of people are not aware of that. And then I'm like, well, you see how much you're getting. And if you wait longer, you'll get more. You could take it out earlier and you can maybe invest it. If you're disciplined, you can do other things with it. But if you are not disciplined when you're having that conversation, I don't think when you start getting the money, you're going to be disciplined to put it in the account for it to grow and do something else. Like, it sounds great in theory, but you probably not going to do that. So I'm bringing up Social Security not to say if you are in your 40s or your 30s to say this is something to consider for you. But if you know that the financial responsibility to take care of your parents, and some of it's going to fall on you, it's going to be a big part of the conversation for your parents.
You have, as you saw in the Exodus Summit post, probably about a little over a week ago, where we were talking about retirement, and someone was saying, what age should I take my retirement? So I think that you started talking a little bit about that. That is, the temptation for us, and which I'm feeling more and more confident, is if it's there, I'm going to take it as soon as it's available, because banking on what's going to happen in the future, and I look at the longevity and the quality of life for Black Americans. There's a lot of incentive to take it early if it's available. So what's the conversation that you would consider that people need to be having with themselves or their partner about? I guess that's a step one and a step two. Because I've seen that conversation too online about, should one take it before the other, not together?
Yeah, because you can get spousal benefits. If one spouse decides to take it, you could get some of that money as well. But whatever age you take it, that's it. You can't increase it. So if you take it at 62, if it's $1,200 a month, that's what you're getting for the rest of your life. So it's not like when you turn 66, you're going to get more money. That's it. So I recommend people, if you're married, also consider this too, because we don't think about this. If they have if they're divorced, because you can get benefits, ex-spouse can get benefits if they were married to that person for 10 years. The spousal Social Security amount doesn't impact like the payout to the actual, like, let's say, for example, you two are married and, D, you have an ex-husband. Y'all were married for 10 years or whatever. If you decide to take your benefit, he can go ahead and say, hey, I may want to take it too, right? That's not going to impact what you get per month. It's not.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, typically, like, do your goose. But I'm just saying, typically, it doesn't impact your payout. It doesn't go down for what you do. However, I'm not sure the implications for Herman, right? I don't know how that would work for him. But so there is not surviving. I said that wrong, but just the spousal stuff, like of an ex-spouse. If you were married for 10 years, there's other implications on there that they can draw from. So that could be a benefit to other people if you are like, hey, I didn't get remarried and my spouse, maybe let me see what benefits I can take. A lot of people do not consider that because, again, that's not going to lower your spouse's monthly amount. There's like a weird proration thing, and however they do it, 150%. Listen, Social Security alone is a whole lot in itself. But I'm saying to you that if you were married to someone for a long time and it's retirement age at 62, you can draw on it if they drew on it as well. Like, they have to draw on it first. That could be a part of yours. But you can't take a spousal benefit and yours like together. So, for example, if you're getting the $1,200 D a month from as a spousal benefit, and you are supposed to get $1,600 for yours individually, like when you actually do retire, you don't get $1,600 and $1,200. It don't work like that. Like, you get the higher of the amount. So it's like it's proration with it's proration that comes involved, and it's all type of math that goes into it or whatever. But that's why I'm like, I can't answer that wholly as far as like who should take something first, who shouldn't take anything, right? It depends on a lot of things. And a lot of people just may not even know about the surviving thing. And I learned a lot about that at work when people would come to me, even though I wasn't in the area of retirement benefits, I audited, they would still come to me and ask me questions. Like, I'm thinking about doing this and not even knowing literally where to start. And then they're like, I think I can get something for my husband or my ex-wife or whatever. And I'm like, yes, you should look into that. How long were y'all married? When were y'all married? So I'm just saying, like, this stuff people don't know. And if you helping your parents with their stuff, this is something that you can equip them with or whatever. We're starting to have that conversation.
Yeah, you just unpacked a lot. The ex-spouse was a complete surprise to me. Like, I didn't know that. So it sounds like the rules around that are that you need to be married. Go and look on the Social Security Administration website. Okay. But you have to be married for somewhere, longer than a year or two.
Like 10 years, if you and your ex had to been married for 10 years. That part I do know for sure.
Yes. And then for you to have access to the benefit, your ex-partner would have had to have started receiving benefits.
Right. And you can't be remarried either. So
And you can't be remarried.
so the example I gave for you, your ex-husband can't remarry and still try to collect the spousal benefit. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's different too if you have you can collect it if you have kids under a certain age and stuff like that too, under 16. There's like a laundry list of things that qualify.
Although we're talking about Social Security, this could also apply to pensions as well, ex-spouse benefits. So I would definitely say take a look. Take a look. It is worth it. One of the questions that I wanted to bring forward on the spousal benefit conversation is if we're not retirement age, and I pass before being able to collect. What is there a widow benefit or something else that might be?
There is a surviving spouse benefit, but I think the earliest you can take it is 62, maybe 60. 60 is coming. I could be confusing it with something with IRA, but I think the earliest that they could take it is 62. But here's the thing too, when talking about taking it early, you lose some of that money if you're still working. And a lot of people are going to still work. They're not going to just say, I think the average, I Googled like the average Social Security payment is like $900. It was in 2023. You're not living off that. So you're probably still going to work. And you start losing some of that monthly benefit if you make over like $22,000 a year. So that's another thing to consider. So for example, the surviving spouse benefit, you could take it as early as 62, maybe. But then if you're still working, and you know you're going to make over 22,000 a year, you're going to lose some of that money. So it's a lot of things to consider.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Question here.
Yep. I was going to say.
Save it till later. I don't know what you're going to.
Yeah.
All right. You have a question here from Iona Ringgold. If you take Social Security before full retirement age, doesn't it place limitations on the amount you can earn?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like, you can only earn, it's 22,000 something. I don't know the exact number. You don't lose all of it, but you start losing like $1 on. It's like a scale. You start losing some of that money. So sometimes it's like for example, D, you were saying I'm gonna take it because you don't know what's promised tomorrow if it run out, right? And I get that. If you are an entrepreneur and you have 1099 income and you have taxable wages coming in over 22,000, pension is not considered. It's a list of things that kind of weighs out from the 22,000. But if you're still working and earning money, some of that payment, if that's $900 a month, let's say you were going to get, it can go to $800 a month because you're making over that amount, and it's tiered to the amount you lose. And they are watching, because I've had people come to me and say, my mom got a part-time job, as a greeter at Walmart or whatever. And holiday season comes around, they work a little bit more, and then their benefits change because they started making over that threshold amount. So that's something to consider. And if you I want to remind you this, if you're like, I'm not using it, this is something to think about for your parents.
Excellent. Excellent. Why don't we go ahead and let you Vagabond's question too.
Is there a chart that explains how much less the Social Security would be?
It's not a chart. They kind of explain it. I will, after this live is over, I'm pretty good about going back and adding links. If I find the table on the actual Social Security website, because I like to go to the source, I will link it in the comments after the live is over. But in general, I think it's just like an explanation, unfortunately. And they don't really give good concrete examples like the IRS does if you're looking up tax codes, which nobody's probably doing but me. they give you a lot of examples in tax code. That's not the same with Social Security, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm looking back and forth at the Social Security page. So if I'm able to find it, I'll drop it as well in the chat. Let's see. Greta has a question.
Whenever you take Social Security, my understanding is that you receive a cost of living adjustment usually per year.
Okay, I will say this. We had D talked about this. Like, there's some screw ups going on with the administration right now, where people are losing money because of the cost of living adjustments being incorrect. So it does happen. So, for example, I said if you retire at 62, you're going to get $900 forever. I'm gonna put an asterisk there. It does modify for cost of living adjustments. That is true. However, it doesn't bump up to the next level. Like, if you were going to get 900 or 1500 at 66, you don't get that 1500 at 62. If that makes sense. So you're going to stay at that bracket. But the cost of living adjustments have been wacky lately, and people have been getting they have to pay the administration back. So adjustments can happen. And I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say about it. It'll come back to me with the living adjustment. I lost it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, a lot of people it's tracked back to, it's like government bonds or something like that. But yeah, people begin to look at the market and look for the announcement. Is there going to be a cost of living increase based on inflation and other things? So my personal caution is what you just shared, is Social Security Administration is determining my rate, how much, if I qualify, I'm at a qualifying age, how much of those funds will come to me. There's a whole lot of back office calculations. One of the things that Tasha said is go in and confirm that they are collecting all of your information to make that determination. If it is incorrect, now is the time to make sure that that's correct. There are years where I saw that there were zeros and I was just like, I know I got paid. So now is the time to, if you need to pull records, if you need to challenge what is being as a part of the calculation, please go in, set up an account, go in every year, a couple of times a year, and take a look to see how it changes. It does give an estimation of what that benefit could look like, but what they show you and what you actually get, that there's the formulas can change. You can request an audit of the account if you notice that what they have represented is not completely accurate.
And I want to say too, I had mentioned it on my live with 401k. Check your employer calculations, because I have audited some companies and it's been wrong. They were trying to fix it behind the scenes. I caught it, and actually an employee caught it. And the thing is, it was trying to catch it for a certain plan. Like, employees have all type of plans depending on when you were hired and all of that. And this was hundreds of employees that the calculations were wrong. They were still employed, and let's say you were contributing 4% every paycheck. They were taking like 4.5%. It was something wrong in the system, payroll system changeover, and it was a glitch, and it was taking out too much money, right? So don't just trust that the systems are correct, especially when from an employer 401k, because that's something that can be corrected. It could still take some time, but with Social Security, I'm glad you mentioned you can do an audit. I'm not familiar with how that process works or whatever, but you should definitely log in. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not going to have it when I retire, think about your parents. I've had a family member where stuff was screwed up too. Thinking about that, where years were wrong and it was a mess. and it was in your years of service matter because that's going into your calculation. I want to say I did see a question about does your income, what type of income you have, impact your threshold? Yes, there's a list. Your pension doesn't count. Certain investment accounts don't count towards that threshold. But if you're like that Walmart greeter example, that counts, right? So a lot of people say, I'll just go be a greeter, or I'll just work part-time somewhere. Those wages are definitely going to count. Rental income, I believe, counts. But there's a list. I don't want to misstate anything. It's a lot of, I'm thinking 401k, IRA, Social Security, and I'm not looking at anything right now. So again, go to ssa.gov.
The statement trust but verify needs to be a part of every aspect of your life. We get into the concept of, well, they're the experts. These are human factors affecting your livelihood, be it your doctor, be it your professors, be it your banker. Look at your receipts. We tell our children every month, you know, they don't live here, but their statements still come to my house from the bank. Go in there, because you'll have money coming out. We've had people over the course of our marriage, we've had people in our accounts, and they didn't take, $2,000. They didn't take, you got $5 here and $10 there. And, there are many ways you have to check. And just because a system says something and something that you've set something up a certain way, check your accounts always, and things that you are investing in, things that you're applying, because you are the verifier. Mm-hmm. Trust your systems to work, but know what the system is supposed to do.
And save all your documentation.
Absolutely.
If you are beginning to get statements about, and they used to send them all the time. I don't know why but Social Security used to send a statement in the mail saying, here's your updated, on the back of the form. It would show me all the years, all the years I was out with, caring for our kids and I wasn't earning an income. It would show those zeros, but you have to keep up with that documentation, because they'll come back and say, well, we told you.
Oh, yes, they will.
So I'm so excited. We are talking about Social Security, but the bulk of what I want to make sure that we also cover is 401k, 403b, those other designations for retire and IRAs that are designated for retirement in the tax code, to make sure that when you're looking at your strategy, yes, Social Security can be your bonus, but a lot of us have the opportunity to allow time and compound interest to really grow a pot of funds that, whether you are putting it in, you and your employer through a match program, and then people like, all the folk in the chat that are showing us how to take small amounts and then growing that into something that we can live off of, we can share as a part of our generational wealth. So let's dive. Did we get this question?
Let's get this question. Does living abroad affect your Social Security in any way?
So it doesn't impact your payout. You should get your payout no matter where you live. However, there's a big misconception that you don't get taxed on your Social Security, and that's not true. It is varying things that can impact whether you get taxed on your Social Security, and it's usually depending on what other income you have. There's other varying factors. So that is a myth. It may not impact you, but if you have, positive net worth, growing and growing and growing, and you have different streams of income, that is something that can impact you whether you live abroad or you live here. So that's just something to consider. And before we move on to 401k, I got one more thing. People were talking about like being a signature on your parents' accounts, banking accounts. I recommend you make sure you or another sibling or whatever is a beneficiary versus being a signer on the account if you are not in good financial standing. Because whoever is after that money will take it from your parents' account. I used to be a bank teller, and I will never forget a woman, like her mom had like 6 figures in the bank and it got wiped out. And her mom was trying to figure out what happened. Her and her daughter were on the account. It was really her mom's money. And she was trying to, like, she was all mad at Bank of America, whatever. And it was like, it was a garnishment, it was a levy. I can't even remember what it was, but it got snatched from the account because they see this is a joint account. You're on theirs, we're gonna take the money. So that's something to consider. If
Yeah.
you're not that sibling that's on it, and you may have a sibling that's not responsible, that got child support, back payments, or whatever, that can be taken from your parents' account if you are joint signers. You need to be a beneficiary. It's so important to know that. And I know that Dee brought up like trust. You can have this is a very hard conversation to have because you're really talking about the death part, and parents do not, a lot of people don't want to talk about death because we know it's going to happen, but we don't want to talk about it. That's an even harder conversation than the retirement conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure you're at least a beneficiary on your parents' accounts, and if they're divorced, that the ex-spouse is not listed as a beneficiary, because whoever is listed as a beneficiary will get the money, and you will have to go to probate court and be tied up in it to try to get it out. So really make sure you're on top of that with your parents.
It may seem like a simple thing, but very briefly, define the difference between being a beneficiary and a cosigner.
So beneficiary, you can't get statements. So I'm not going to get my mom's bank statements. I can't go to the bank and take money out of her account. I can only get money if she were to pass away.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to go in, show her death certificate to be able to get her funds.
Mm-hmm.
When you are a joint account, it's like your money. Even if your parent doesn't give you a debit card or whatever, you can go to the bank, show your ID, give your social security number, you can take money out, right?
Yep.
So that's a huge difference.
Yep. I've known stories of exes where that's happened, of children. I even had a young man, a very young man, whose mother cleaned out his account. Yeah, it happens. And did it? It wasn't like accidental, like she was over there and some money went out. She went down to the bank and took the money because she was a signee. She had been a signee on his account since he was younger, and he was just kind of moving along. And she was going through whatever she was going through and cleaned it out. And so when his affairs came due, there was no due.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
You're talking about the early 20s. So you're talking about a kid, and it just,
Yeah.
I mean, that rocked him. And so there, I wanted you to be able to explain that. We take things for granted, but yeah, there's a difference between a beneficiary. I am a beneficiary on my father's accounts, on his wills, on his trust, on his accounts, but I have no say in his affairs. He lives his own. And when we got married, I took my parents off of my accounts. And my wife is both a signee and a beneficiary. That was on purpose.
You talked about trust, and Tasha, I wasn't quite sure how to give you the opportunity. You were talking on your channel because there were several questions coming up about what happens when something like a 401k or those, what happens to that money when you pass. And you talked about probate. Could we just segue into that as we are getting ready, priming this conversation about 401k?
Yes, if your parent or you pass away, you need to log into your account and make sure you have a beneficiary, because then the funds will go to the beneficiary that you have listed. You can do split, you can do 10%, split it up. I have mine split between percentages for the people I have listed. But if you do not have anyone listed on any of your accounts, it goes to the state, especially for bank accounts. It's just held up. So you can't, I'm speaking from a bank perspective, and now talk about 401k. People will thought, okay, my grandmother passed, I'm her daughter or I'm her granddaughter, whatever. And it's like, I have nobody in the bank has the authority. Even the notary can't say, oh yeah, we can see the birth certificates and this is your next of kin. That's not a decision the bank can do. That has to go to probate court, which is very time consuming. And it's the same thing with the 401k. I'm not, and I think would think so with life insurance. I'm not sure about that, but it's very similar with a 401k. You can't just, say, oh, I'm the child and they should come to me, because it's like, okay, if there's multiple children, you will have to put a notice out in the paper. You have to, it could have changed or whatever by now, but when stuff goes to probate and you're saying you're the sole heir for it, you have to prove that in court. So they will make you make a take out an ad, or the only thing I can remember right now is a newspaper, but you have to put out an ad and you have to wait so long for people to say,
Contest
have a
it.
response. Yeah, to claim it. So it's not like you can just write Fidelity and say, okay, I'm going to mail in or fax in. I have a notarized that I'm this person's child or whatever, and I'm going to get the money. No, because especially if that person remarries or whatever, it's the new spouse. It goes to them. That's usually how it goes next to kin. They have to be able to prove that, okay, this was my spouse or whatever. It's a little bit different in that situation. But what usually happens is the kids are like, well, I should get the money. We need this money to bury my parents or whatever. It doesn't work just as easily as you showing that you are this person's kid. Spouse is easier usually because that is the first next to kin. You don't have to go down a chain. But when there's no spouse, it's a nightmare.
Wow. Okay, so we were talking about compound interest, how to leverage that 401k, 403b, IRA. So where did you want to start with that part of the conversation about strategy?
I wanted to just talk first about investing overall. And shout out to Sandra if she's still on here. When I was watching when she was on from Legacy to Legacy, of just taking a step back to talk about what investing is. And a lot of people, they're watching the market and looking at their 401k, and they're like my age, like this, having this emotional reaction. This doesn't impact you right now, right? So first and foremost, investing is, you don't need this money right now. Let's think at least 5 years. You don't need this money. So whatever you're investing, you don't need it immediately. You may need to liquidate if emergencies come up, but you don't need it right now. So if you're watching daily what's going on with the market, that has no impact on you unless you are day trading. I just have to put that disclaimer out there. And so when it comes to your 401k or any investment account, if you have mutual funds or you're doing ETFs and you are just investing, constantly being obsessed with the market and what's going on doesn't matter, because you are going for the long term so it can compound over time. So with investing, when we talk about investing in a mutual fund or your 401k, you are investing in the stock market mostly. You can invest in bonds in your 401k sometimes. I think 403bs have more bond options, or can't think of the third thing right now, than like a traditional 401k. But overall, we're just going to say you're investing in the stock market. And so this means you are becoming an owner in the company. And I'm going to use Home Depot as an example. If you are an employee at Home Depot and you invest in your 401k, let's say you put $100 every paycheck in your 401k. Typically, when it first happens, it's going to be $40 going into Home Depot stock and the other $60 going into a target date fund. And this is your model for investing. So that means you are an owner in Home Depot. Not only are you employed, but you have stock. You own an individual share. That means if the company is doing great and the market value goes up, your stock goes up. But what people don't realize with investing in the stock market, nothing happens until you sell it. Nothing happens until you sell it unless it goes completely to zero. That's the only time, right? If it goes to zero, it's no coming back from that. It's not like the Fidelity is like, okay, we know it went to zero, but we're gonna give you an extra 2,000 and start back up. It don't work like that. So it can go to zero. If it's like Great Depression moment and everything goes away. But overall, nothing happens when you invest in the stock market until you sell it, meaning that it's just paper losses or whatever. So I'm just gonna pause right there and see if there's questions or if that makes sense.
Yep.
So 401k, investing in the stock market. I want to reiterate that you really should invest in your 401k at least up to the match, because that's a part of your compensation. And you don't want to leave that on the table. And people who are like, oh, I'm scared to invest, I don't know where to start. Start with your 401k, because it gives you the basics of, okay, if you work for a public company, especially, they're going to allocate money to an individual stock. So you get to see, okay, an individual stock, meaning that you own one share of a company, and then they're going to put your money in a fund. And if you're nervous about looking at a statement, logging in, guess what? You should go ahead and do it with your 401k, because if you're getting a match, you can look at it as part of your compensation, or it's free money or whatever, that it's helping you invest. So if you lose all or it goes down low, whatever you invested, you still have your employer match that's kind of balancing it out if you look at it from that perspective. So starting with your 401k is essential. So I really suggest that you understand the match with your employer. And you can do that by contacting your HR department or your benefits department to figure out what your match is. Don't just asking a coworker what the match is, because it's different depending on when you started with it. It's so many varying factors, right? And then once you figure out what the match is, contribute up to that amount. Once you contribute up to that amount, you definitely want to start looking at your statements, your monthly statements, your quarterly statements, logging in. Even if it makes you nervous, a lot of people, they log in, they just get nervous. Like, I don't want to mess that up. I'm like, even if you scroll and hit nothing, unless you hit transact, confirm, you're not gonna mess nothing up. So just getting comfortable with logging into the account is so important. And every plan sponsor, for them, plan sponsor means Empower, JP Morgan Chase, Fidelity, Vanguard. Those plan sponsors, they are going out for business to be with your employer, right? So that's why you may see it change from Vanguard to Empower or to Fidelity, right? So one of the things they do when they come to companies and saying, we should be your plan sponsor, we offer these free educational events for your employees. They offer them, you need to go.
Yes.
So you understand what's going on. It's free.
They are live. Some of them are live. Some of them are archived. But I know Fidelity, they push their women's focused workshops. They have themes. So I know last year they did Black History Month, which was, it felt new to me. I've been trying to pay more attention. And then their customer service. Their customer service, you should be calling and saying, is this easy to understand? Do I get the brush off? Trust me, I have fully vetted mine, because I call and ask the same questions and see if I get different answers, if I can understand it better with someone and then they have all of these great tools. When we're talking about a retirement strategy, they have these tools that tell you, are you on track? So you put in how much money you make, how much are you contributing, how much is already in your accounts, and then when do you estimate on retiring and the lifestyle you want to have. So you can know, do I have shortfalls? What year could I have that shortfall? What do I need to do, now that could change this so that I have a quality of life. One of the things that, I'm looking at our list of things that we're going to talk about. And it's something when you watch those, and I'm thinking about Adelia Aborshade that was just interviewed by CSNBC. If you all watch those segments, they show the circle of where they put their money. And what I've started since getting ready for this is noticing a lot of people have some of their money in their 401k and majority of their money in a Roth IRA or other retirement savings vehicles outside. So can you talk about, like, you know, you should be doing something with your money. We're all saying yes to that. But what am I seeing when I see that people are putting, some money here and some money there? What's the thought process around that, creating that diversity?
With 401k, one of the biggest cons is you have limited things you can invest in. So they have their set funds that you can invest in. So you're not going to get the whole options that you would get if you open a individual brokerage account. A brokerage account is basically your bank account for investing in the stock market. That's what that means. So you are open to anything you see on the internet, but with 401k, it's not like that. Some employers have crappy options, and so I'm not advocating that you invest to the max with your 401k unless you want to do some tax planning. I'm gonna get around to your question in 1 second, D. I promise. I just want to say that because I did that. When you start, you're a high earner. There's certain things you want to do with tax planning to lower how much you pay on your taxes, and you may contribute up to, I don't know what it is this year, 22,500. It may be advantageous because you have great funds in your employer, meaning you have great mutual fund options. They may even have ETFs in there, right? So you have options in there. So you may say, okay, I want to max out and put 22,500 in there, and that could put you in a lower tax bracket, meaning you're paying less taxes and you're earning this money when investing. That's one thing to consider. A lot of people, you can convert over when you leave your employer, and sometimes when you are with your employer, you can convert some of that money from a 401k to an IRA or a Roth IRA. Now, if you convert it to a Roth IRA, if you leave your employer, you got to pay taxes on that immediately. So that could suck. But I'm saying all to say is that some people start with putting their money in 401k and start converting it over if they leave their employer or if their employer has the option to have other options. So with Roth IRA, you are putting after tax money in there. And with 401k, like I was saying, you can play tax bracket games. That is pre-tax, meaning that when you take that money out, you're paying taxes on it. But with your Roth, you're not paying taxes on it, right? So you have to figure out where you're going to be, right? So if you retire early, you're doing YouTube, you're H&D. If you think about other big YouTubers, they are earning some money from doing stuff on YouTube. So it's like, okay, when you get stuff from your 401k, you are paying taxes on that and other things as well. So that's something to consider. If you're going to be in a higher tax bracket when you retire, some people want to put most of their money into the Roth. And it's not, you don't have to think about the Roth as I can only contribute, I don't know, 5,500. Again, these amounts, don't hold me to them.
It's different for 50 plus. So
it's different. It's different stuff. That's why I'm like, okay, let me stop saying amounts because somebody be in the comments say it's really this. I'm sorry, y'all. But you can convert stuff over. So back to your original question, you're seeing people have different stuff in the pie chart, and I love this the CNBC stuff I see and Danielle on there as well, but it's giving you more options, right? I'm saying 401k is your starting point to investing, but the next step is opening up a Roth IRA. I'm saying Roth, depending on where you are in your tax bracket, because if you make too much money, the Roth, it phases out for you. But you can contribute money in your Roth IRA, and you can pick from all types of funds. So I'm just gonna pause there. I'm saying a lot.
No, Greta's mentioning something that I think you were actually giving some feedback about on your channel, is that you have the option with some employers to switch from a target date fund to an IRA. So did you want to talk a little bit about that?
About switching from 401k to IRA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I left my employer, you can decide you want to keep it with there or you can roll it over to an IRA. Rolling all your money to an IRA, you're not it's not income to you, you should do institution to institution. So it should go directly from Vanguard to Fidelity. It should no check should be cut to you, because that could be taxes and fees and all kind of nightmares. But once you roll it over into the IRA, you opening it up to the world options of which you can pick from. So you don't have to do target date funds, or they're limited mid cap. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just bear with me. The mid cap funds or large cap funds and all this stuff, and you're like, I don't know what this means, but I only see 12 options. When you roll it over to an IRA, you have unlimited options of whatever's available in the market with Fidelity or Vanguard. You can pick from. So it's a lot more advantageous to have it in an IRA. IRA is similar to 401k from the standpoint of when you take it out, you're going to have to pay taxes on it, but you can make a lot more selections. And so with Greta, I had mentioned this on my live. You don't want to just keep it with your company. If you work at Home Depot, you need to move that money into funds. It's really high risk to have a lot of your money just with the public company you work for. And target date funds are designed to be high risk when you're younger. And as you go to retirement age, it becomes less risky. They usually put it more in like money market accounts, or basically just cash equivalents or whatever, to hedge off that risk of the market going up and down and you got to retire in 2 years, right? Target date funds tend to be like, the return doesn't tend to be as great as the S&P 500 index fund. They don't compare it to index funds. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's fine. Just make a mental note. You're hearing these terms. Don't feel overwhelmed, because I work with people and they're like, I don't know what this means. I don't even want to, I just want to pay somebody to do it. Even if you pay someone to do it, you still need to know these basics, right? Like, you need to understand as you're growing and you're investing what these terms mean. And that's going back to going to those free educational classes with your plan sponsor at work. But target date funds, they're not the best. They usually have higher expense ratios, meaning you're paying more in fees, and they usually do not have the best return on your investment.
Yeah. So talking to your, you called it your plan sponsor, and finding out what your options are, even if what you can start with is a target date fund. As you are learning, do something. Right. Don't do nothing. And as we interviewed Dee from Brown Girls Invest Too, and one of her points that she brought forward was, yes, you can designate money to go into a 401k, but it's not going to do anything until you attach it to a service. So there are always 2 steps. One, you've got to consistently contribute. And the second is then you need to say what those funds are designated to do. I chose, even though when I started with my employer, I was closer to retirement age, but I chose something that was very, like I was 20 something years old. I chose a target date. You don't have to choose the target date fund that matches with your actual retirement date. The mix of what is in that target date fund is going to be different. So, because I didn't know, I was just like, well, let me go with the one that's farthest back. It's got more stocks, fewer bonds. I needed to be a little bit more risky, so that I could play catch up. So please, please, please. And once you, like they say, once you know more, once you know better, do better.
Do better. I want to say one more thing about target date funds. We've explained what it is. If you are looking at your statement for the first time, is usually if it'll say T Rowe Price and then it'll say target date fund. It'll say, you'll start seeing it. So this is what you want to look for. And I agree with Dee. You have to tell your money where to go in your 401k. From my viewpoint, most employers just plug you into a target date fund and some of their company stock, but there could be an option where they don't do anything with it. It could be going to just like a checking
Money
account.
market account. Yep.
Yeah, a money market account, and it's just sitting there doing nothing. So you need to look and see. And I have to say too, for people who are entrepreneurs, you can open a 401k as a entrepreneur. You can open up your own 401k. So don't skip out on that. The same tax benefits you can get as far as with lower, like changing your tax bracket. When I say change your tax bracket, that means paying less taxes, right? You can get those same benefits as an entrepreneur. There's more to it, especially if you're married and your spouse is contributing in 401k. And if you have an employer and you have an entrepreneur, but that's something to consider. Also, a self-directed IRA if you're an entrepreneur. So if you're an entrepreneur, you need to look into retirement investing options that will help you save on taxes as well that you may not consider. So this is the benefit of working with a CPA that specializes in, you want to make sure they specialize in retirement planning. Or if you're working with a financial advisor, financial advisors, they're supposed to be well versed in retirement, especially. You want to ask these questions. Don't just pick anyone and just say, oh, I'm gonna go with them and this is what it means. Like, well, if you're an entrepreneur, you should be doing effective tax planning, especially if you're going to go abroad. You want to make sure there's so many days you have to stay in a year and different stuff you need to consider when it comes to your taxes. So just keep that in mind.
Whew. All right, got a question here. I have a TSP account. Can you talk about the difference in rolling over versus transferring to a traditional brokerage?
I'm like pausing on this one. So rolling over is institution to institution for my understanding, and transferring to me would be the same thing if it's institution to institution. Sometimes they will cut you a check, but I don't know if Herman or D is if you know something different, but to me they're saying it's institution to institution, so you don't get taxed or pay penalties on it.
I was gonna say I just did my rollover, so
I know rolling over is. I'm not sure about transferring.
Yeah, I don't know specifically about transferring. The rule that Dee, when she was talking with us about it, and that when I got my coaching from Fidelity, they said if it comes to you, even if all you're going to do is turn around and send it to Fidelity, it needs to be institution to institution or it becomes income. And now, so that when you are looking to whoever you're going to transfer it to, just make sure that it is not coming to you.
Exactly.
In any kind of way. It doesn't need to go through me. It needs to go from one institution. Sometimes they have you open an account on one side, you capture that information, provide it to whoever is holding your funds, and you're telling them where to send it and not to you.
Yeah.
Great.
To me, institution is the main thing to worry about.
I've heard enough to know that like you said, if it bounces out of there, and government wants their money, so they say much. This is a really interesting question here. If you're on YouTube, can you open a self-employed 401k or SEP if that's your business?
Yeah, if you're doing a YouTube and you have an LLC set up, you can open up a self-employed 401k as a sole proprietor. But what I'm recommending is that you actually have an LLC with an operating agreement. Some people miss that part. Like if you don't have an operating agreement, if you were to get sued or whatever, the court could look at it as it's not really your business. You just open up an LLC. Operating agreement is saying like how this business will function from beginning to end or whatever. Get your EIN, open your checking account, and the self-employed 401k option. I always say like with sole proprietors and LLCs, like the biggest thing is it's really protection. I'm not an attorney. But I'm just saying it's really from the protection standpoint of protecting your assets. You can't protect your assets in court if you're not operating as a business. So if you don't have an operating agreement, you don't have a business checking account, you don't have business insurance, the court can say you're not really operating as a business. And you know what? This person sues you and they can have access to your 401k. So just keep that in mind, that the LLC really is just offering you that protection from a legal standpoint.
Okay.
Very good.
Got some good potential information from LaTanya. I believe transferring refers from moving from one brokerage to another in kind, meaning I had Apple stock at Fidelity and I'm moving those same Apple shares to Vanguard.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I would double check on that though. Yeah.
Yeah, that does make, and to me, it's just the institution to institution, because you don't want to get hit with capital gain taxes or anything else from anything coming to you. So as long as anything is institution to institution, when it comes to that, you should not have any problems. So thank you for clarifying that. I'm just like thinking like, this don't have to come to you, whatever it is.
That's the important part either way.
Right.
Let's see. You have on here also CD and high yield savings rates. So we've had several questions about that, and it's almost scary. I've never seen, I mean, over the last couple of years, I've seen companies offering some tremendous, just regular bank account savings, high rates, interest rates for savings, but also should CDs be a part of our retirement planning?
I would say not. I mean, it can be a part of that pie right now. I'm seeing 5% rates. And then if you Google average return in the market, I mean, we had a big spike right now, but the average return is hovering around 6%. I mean, I forgot we're in 2024. If you look at 2023, so like it's apples to apples. So for me, if you're a person that's like, I don't want to risk my money, you put your money in a CD or savings account, that money is there. Even if the bank takes, you're still FDIC insured. So you're going to get that money, the interest that you're earning. And what you can do is you can just keep that 5% at this power compounding. When that CD closes, and if it's still 5%, put it in another CD and just keep going and going. I have that out there for people to consider if they are not comfortable of thinking of holding that money for at least 5 years in a brokerage account. Because with investing, it's not the same as saving. So a CD, a certificate of deposit is what we're talking about. That means that you are going into the bank or opening it online and saying, hey, you can hold my money for 14 months. And if you don't take early, if you don't take it out before that date, let's say they'll say you can't take it out until March of 2025, we'll pay you 5.25%. You're going to get that money. It doesn't matter what the market is doing or whatever. They are going to pay you that money. So if you're nervous about, I don't know how investing works and investing in my 401k seems enough for me, I'm doing it wrong, I don't want to just keep opening up all these accounts or whatever, you're just nervous. I'm saying that's another way of thinking about compound interest. You won't get, huge returns because you're going to get that guaranteed 5.25. It's similar to bonds. You're going to get what they said they were going to give you.
Yeah. I feel like CDs are a good way, and another good way to say, this is money I won't need today. But it's going to be easier to get access, even with that penalty. It's going to be easier to liquidate a CD than it is to liquidate some other funds. So I see it as, it's almost like, okay, so I have cash money, that's just kind of sitting in a checking account, money in a high yield savings account that, I can easily get access to, no penalty unless I go below a certain amount in that account. Then CDs are another longer term, you're going to get more interest. So I think the more education I have about what my options are, and I'm thinking about what kind of scenarios could play out. If my mama needs to go in the hospital, she needs to pay that whatever the deductible is to be there. Where is that money? How am I going to be able to quickly get to it? What kind of penalty will I have? If she's not going to let me into her account, into her checking account, or she can't speak for herself because I'm not on that account, where am I going to get that money from? And when the scary thing, the thing that I'm thinking about when we're coupling our future and the possibility of being responsible for our parents is assisted living, nursing home facilities in the US. It took my breath away to hear that people are saying $10,000 a month.
That's the crappy ones.
I was going to say that's the and so when you're talking about where do I need to have funds that I can quickly get access to, when we're talking about a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, if you've got where are you going to put $100,000 so that I can put mama somewhere while we try to figure out how to get the legal stuff right? It is so thought. You have to put the thought into it. And then when you add, and I might not be in the US. So running down the list of things that we've gathered in this money conversation, do not close down your life in the US. This is stuff that I've heard Tasha say and other folk. Do not close down. You need to have a bank account. You need to have somewhere where you can receive mail. You need to have a telephone number so that 2-step authentication, 3-step authentication. You've got stuff that's based in the US where if you need to authenticate on an account, you can do that easily. Any other tips, Tasha, as we're thinking about the move abroad, the retirement and investing circle that people need to be kind of bringing to the forefront as they're potentially considering moving abroad?
Yeah, I would say I did see that Yvette say like CDs are a good place to throw for your emergency fund. I agree. So the money, I think, aside from anything, because I see a lot in different chat groups of like, just go on faith. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But if you have a parent, if your kids are going, whenever you have a parent, and if not everyone has the relationship where they think about they're going to help their parent. But if that's not your story, you need to have enough money saved to be able to book a flight back. Don't just say, oh, I have my credit cards and I'll use that as an emergency or whatever to get back. Like, you need to have that as in the back of your mind. And I met a lot of people who are like, I ain't never coming back to the US or whatever. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're not close to your family. Oh, my parents are there. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, do you like your parents? Are you ever going? Because it's like, you're going, I think a lot of people don't understand that when your parents age, it's not like back in the day where, most families lived in the same neighborhood. I'll just speak for my family. We are close, but my extended family are scattered. When we all, like, when I was younger, we all lived in one city. So if somebody was sick, you just go over there. You have people that are scattered everywhere right now. So you need to have that in mind to think about your plane ticket back. Also, the cost of their care. If they get to the point where they need around the clock care, if you're abroad, and do you have a plan to get back and maybe live here permanently? It's something you should consider. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm reading through the statements and as is expected, people you can hear some of the anxiety because there is so much involved, and the older we get, we realize how fast the older we get. This is, it goes back to our conversation last night. This is about planning. And I want to stop and say that it is not too late to plan. It is not too late to have this conversation with your family members, both those in front of you and those behind you. And And as you said earlier, Tasha, this is not a one-time conversation. We had this conversation. I come back next week and I bring it up again. I'm not letting you all walk out of this conversation. I'm not blowing this off and then getting into the work for yourself and or your family members to making these things be to secure these things.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, it's worth the cost of investing in professionals who provide this information, who can counsel you, who can guide you, so that you have someone who says, okay, what do you have? What are you looking at? Here are the numbers. Here's the raw facts. Here's how you can move. And that doesn't mean don't research, don't grow, don't find out. But sometimes if you're in a time crunch for information, get the people who do this to help you find the spaces to be able to move forward so that you can at least have it can propel you into wherever it is you want to go.
Who is the professional? And I'm saying that not because I don't know, but I'd like to talk about, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And a good estate planning attorney can help. If you have, as a part of our work-life solutions at my job, we get access to attorneys, CPAs as a consulting, and then can go in at a discount to have those services. It is worth the investment. It is worth the investment. How can people, Tasha, how can people work with you around these topics and find other professionals that have a fiduciary responsibility? I mean, like they are covered under that. I'm not earning a commission. I have a responsibility to give you unbiased information. How can we find those professionals? And how can
right? And I would say not even just unbiased, of like, I'm not losing my license for nobody. So that's a whole nother thing. Like, it's one thing to have a business, but to earn my CPA license was no joke, right? So I'm not trying to get anyone that's going to report me to the state. Like, I have that responsibility to make sure I'm doing the right thing. I would say for a CPA, in the state of Michigan, every state has like an association of CPAs. You can go and look that way. If you want to make sure, if you were like, I want to work with a Black CPA, there's like NABA, NABA, National Association of Black Accountants, where you can find accountant that way. I like the suggestion you made of employee assistance programs. You can start there. And the same route goes for with an attorney. So there's like attorney associations. You can search and see what their specialty is. There's Facebook groups that you can look and see. Like I'm in Black CPA. It's closed for CPAs in general, but I mean only for CPAs. But there could be other Facebook groups where you can find and verify licenses to make sure they're accurate. You can go to the state website for Michigan, it's Lara, and type in someone's name and see what pops up. If they have any grievances against their licenses, against their license. Because if I'm working with someone and they're like, I didn't do something right, they can file a complaint with the state. So when you want to really work with a CPA that has a lot of complaints against them, same thing with an attorney. So you need to search and verify licenses. I would say don't just trust whatever you search, whatever you see on YouTube. And before committing and having an actual service agreement with a professional, do a consultation and just see if it's the right fit. Just because someone has the license behind it or whatever doesn't mean that they're going to get you and be able to recommend things, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I also just recommend listening to stuff on YouTube, like joining more conversations like this. If you know you had this conversation with friends or family, just sharing the video, hearing terms like, for example, saying target date, mid cap, large cap. People were like, what? But you start hearing it over and over again, you get more comfortable with hearing these terms, right? So I would say there, look for whatever state you're in, if it should like Tennessee Association of CPAs. You can Google that and see whatever it's called. And you can kind of do a search through there to find a CPA. It's the same, similar to attorneys as well.
This was rich. People sharing all kind of details about bank accounts and rates. And I'm telling you, get in the chat, y'all.
I'll be here looking at like everybody loves Ally. I'll keep looking over, like trying to pay attention. And I want to reiterate too that like when you leave the country, you can earn money, right? You can earn money online. I'm not saying it's like, oh, you got to have X amount of money. If you are able to move abroad and keep your online job, do that for a few months to see if you can work it out. That's my recommendation. If you're not in a toxic work environment, it's not about, oh, I want to retire early, do nothing. Like if okay, I can go move and work a month to see if I want to still do that, test it out. And still work and earn income while you're gone. Like I don't want people to think that once you move abroad or you take a sabbatical, that's the end of your life for earning money. That's not true. But what I am trying to get people to understand is you need to have money to be able to get back. There's expenses behind taking care of an aging parent. There's just different expenses behind that. Not even just with thinking about your own retirement. Unfortunately, this is the conversation a lot of people need to have, are starting to get nervous about. And like I said, when meeting other people abroad, they're like, oh, I'm never going back. And I'm like, okay, that's probably not true.
You haven't thought of a reason. Okay, so we're on a house sit. I've never had to come home. I've never had to come home before and had to come home. And to figure out, okay, how do I get there? Thank you, Tasha, for talking to us about leveraging, because I went in and I was just like, okay, so we've made this 12-hour trip before, like by driving. I went into my app and it said, do you want to use your credits to pay? So the only thing we paid for was gas. We've got a car rental for 5 days, and all we're having to pay for is gas. So, right. I mean, when you can understand how to leverage the things around you, otherwise, plane tickets, I mean, we had to make a split-second decision 2 days. I had to be back here in 2 days. You have, what I keep saying is you may not have thought of a scenario for why you would have to come back. You need to be prepared for if a scenario presents itself and you have to.
A country could go to war and everybody who is not a citizen be required to leave. And if you're just a long-term resident, a permanent resident, and you didn't plan to return, but you've now being told as a non-citizen, we need you to bounce, or your country is saying you got to come home, you got a different scenario. And if you didn't plan for that, I mean, it could be as extreme as that. It could be as simple as there was a natural disaster. Earthquakes are increasing, and if the area you're in, just little things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, a young lady wasn't in the country 24 hours, got sick, is in an emergency room asking, how can I get health insurance? It's $1,300 a day for me to be in the hospital to get care. You may not have thought about a scenario where you would need, whether that is some of your temporary money or thinking about, hey, I wouldn't, Social Security is a bonus. I might actually need it because my needs have changed. Be thinking about this.
Got a question. A financial advisor kept trying to get me to buy life insurance with a long-term care rider. I feel like I can do better with sound investments. Is life insurance a sound idea?
Long-term care insurance, I'm still really trying to consider that myself. I think it was on Adele's channel. I think you even had Candace on, like Candace.
I did. We did.
Yeah. Talking about long-term care insurance, I have mixed feelings about it. I'm still trying to learn more about really how effective it would be, because I know it can run out, and it's just I'm still trying to understand it myself. Life insurance, a sound idea with a long-term care writer. I don't really have any tips on that or any thoughts. Is I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But I would say with life insurance in general, it depends on, do you have people that you want to take care? I would say from my perspective, do you have people that you want to take care of when you pass away? Like, if your net worth is set where it'll cover your funeral expenses and then everything's going to your beneficiary, you may decide, I don't want to pay a monthly payment for health insurance, life insurance, because my assets will cover it. So it just depends on your personal situation. Is my take on it.
My personal take is something that I've heard Adelia say this in regards to um, buying the insurance, the travel insurance through the airline. It's two competing thought processes that are, they have a vested interest in not paying you, paying out. Why would I link two entities that are connected when there is, I wouldn't buy ice cream from my mechanic. I feel like the buy up, I would get my life insurance from a life insurance carrier. I would do my financial stuff with my financial person. I just feel like I don't get the best deal. You get the best deal. I want the best deal. I want to be able to shop around and get a deal that meets my needs. That's just my personal take on it.
I want to add to that, because I forgot about, I saw long-term care writer and just went immediately to long-term care insurance. I agree with you 100%. Like, financial advisors, they are selling assets. They are selling tools, right? And they get commission off of it. So if someone keeps pushing you to do something and you don't understand, don't do it. Understand what the whole space is, and talk to someone independent of that to get a non-biased take on it. Like an actual insurance provider, like you said, is what I'm thinking of. Like, for me, I've been talking to different financial advisors to get their take on long-term care insurance specifically, but I'm not buying. I'm just collecting data, right? And one thing about me, you're not gonna pressure me to buy anything. Like, that whole, like, oh, you're gonna get it before it's gone. Okay, I guess I missed it. Like, because I'm not. Whenever you're trying to create that sense of urgency, usually they're
That's
trying
a
to.
red flag to me. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. It's just
yeah.
like, okay, I'm about to walk away, because high pressure, I don't, I've learned how to recognize in my body if I start to feel anxious, like I need to make a decision. It's coming in handy with the whole investing
Yeah.
and trading I'm doing with Sandra. I'm just like, baby, just, if you're feeling that, now you're not thinking as clearly. Your fight or
Exactly.
flight mode is on. And so you really want to think through. And so if somebody's pressuring you, that's a signal that I would take, that I need to step away and really see if this is meeting the priorities that I've set for having that particular thing. And yes, I've experienced it too. Long-term care is one of the things that can eat your money up, as we've talked about. You can eat away hundreds of thousands of dollars in a very short amount of time. So having a couple of different scenarios where maybe I do something, I have short-term care, it'll last this amount of time while I work out something else. Are there things that I can line up? If you're looking at residency, it's why I'm encouraging our parents. We have residency in Mexico. We have residency in places. Go ahead, do that family unification, so that that's not a step. You're just trying to get them from one place to the other, and then you can, yeah. So there are a lot of components, I think, to a plan. if you have time to think about it and you're exposing yourself to conversations like this, where you can either ask questions or hear people present different scenarios, then you can look at your plan to see, where can I bulk this up? What other documents or professionals or other things do I need to understand? Because the wrong time to figure it out is when you're in an emergency.
Exactly.
When you are having to make decisions, where you can't step away, where it's not where you have less control. So I want to say thank you, Tasha. Thank you for all the good questions in the chat. Y'all came through. D, yes, girl, your ears were burning. I think we said your name about 15 times.
Yeah.
So, and then we don't retire, we ascend is Savandale. We have celebrated you today on day one of your retirement. You inspired this conversation to make sure that I said this, because this is top of mind. When you don't have a lot of assets, you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the things that you have in front of you, whether that's an employer match, getting with Social Security, understanding what benefits are available to you, thinking about the timing, thinking about where you could get a little bit of money from if you've had that ex-spouse, if you qualify for a widow's benefit. All of these pieces, I think, help to construct a great retirement plan. Tasha, will you go back over, where can we find you on social media? How can we work with you on one-on-ones, and the beautiful things that you're doing in the community to increase financial education?
I got one more. I got to answer this question.
Yeah.
I see came through on Thursday. So give me 1 second. I seen a luxury vagabond was saying that her long-term care. I do agree. U.S. healthcare is financial suicide, unfortunately. So that's why I had started having that conversation with Mom earlier. Like, listen, she's a vet, and I'm like, thank goodness you have that coverage. However, a lot of people can't say that Medicare is not going to be enough. Medicare is just a supplement. Medicaid, listen, I'm speaking from experience with my grandmother. Medicaid, you have to have low income, and they look at the assets of that person. And you can do emergency
for like 5 years. They have to be at that income. You can't just sell everything or put it in somebody's name. Y'all, these are not quick fixes. You need to go ahead and put that house in a trust.
I was just about to say that. I was thinking that because I'm like, no, I didn't mention that, and we talked about healthcare, and I've seen a long-term care insurance, and like for my grandmother, for example, like the state was like, yeah, she would need to sell her house or whatever, and they were like, well, we can pay it until she passes because her health was declining rapidly out of nowhere, but when it go to probate, we coming first for that. So keep that in mind. If you're talking to your parents and their assets, like the physical house, to what Dee was saying, they're looking at 5 years. It varies from state to state, but figure out what that is and start moving those assets over to different trusts or whatever. If they have a lot of cash amount, like it's just something you need to start talking about, because if they have a net worth of $500,000 and they need to be in a facility around the clock, that's going to be gone in 2.5 years, 2-3 years. So yeah,
if you're lucky.
And it's just a thing. So I just had to say that first. But you can find me on Tasha Journeys on YouTube. It's linked in this below. And then to book with me, you can book a one-on-one consultation with me just to see if we would be a good fit for whatever your financial goals are at booktasha.com. And I'm repping Financial Garden. It's a nonprofit that I started here in Detroit, nationally recognized by Essence and Pine Sol, and I financially educated over 2,000 students in Detroit. So this is my purpose. I came back here to like really make sure this nonprofit grows and continues to like for real be standalone. I wrote a children's book to teach entrepreneurship and how to hit financial goals outside of saving. So that book is called Amina's Bracelet. And if you go to Financial Guardian, just how it is on my shirt.com, You can purchase a book, support, or just donate to the cause. If you don't do anything else, if you think financial literacy is important, go ahead, make that contribution to my nonprofit so we can continue to push the mission.
And that's K through 12.
Yep.
Our kids said, why didn't we learn how to file an income tax? How to open a checking account? Why didn't we learn those things in school? Thank you, Tasha, for doing that. In the community. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you are joining us in the future, please, if you've got questions, Tasha and we answer. Sometimes I'm answering and you just hit send. We go back and answer the questions that are in the chat.
Come back and look for the answers to your questions.
Yes.
We look back to the comments to your comments, because sometimes we're trying to make contact with you through your comments.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Please
like, share, and subscribe, just like Marilyn told you.
Absolutely. Bye for now.